let everybody know what's going on. Good afternoon. So it's 2 o'clock. We're getting ready for today's meeting. We don't have a quorum yet, so we'll wait a few more minutes. So if you're online, just be patient and we'll be back with you. And as soon as we get a quorum, we'll get started. So thank you. With the largest crowd we've had here in the last couple of meetings. So welcome. We'll just be a few minutes.
Learning experience for us. We'll probably be here more than once.
You know, if there's just a technical question you need, there's the guy right there in front of you. That can answer it, right?
You got me a bunch last week.
Yeah, good. Good deal. Grapes or something with you. I don't. Box of grapes. Are we good, Ken? Yes. All right. All right, let's continue. Thank you. We now have a quorum, so welcome to all of you. So with that, we'd like to open up with an opening prayer. So if I volunteer. So thank you.
Sure. Let's pray. Dear Father, we just want to thank you for this beautiful day that you have graced us with, and for those that are able to be here in person as well as online. We just ask that we're given wisdom to appropriately handle the decisions that we have before us today. And we ask all this in your name.
Okay, attendance, please.
Clayton Nutt,
Here.
Georgia Ski,
Here.
Roger Noble,
Here.
Ken Pick,
Here.
and Teresa Wong.
Teresa will not be attending today, so thank you. All right, we have a quorum. And as always, we announce that our meeting minutes are on the DNRC and TSKT websites for all of our previous meetings, including this one after today. So we need to adopt the agenda. So if there are any comments or changes to the agenda, let's discuss them now. Otherwise, we need to approve the agenda.
I think the September 8th minutes are in our packets, so I would move to amend the agenda.
Let's see if we were supposed to have those. So it's September 8th. Let's see, we have the September 15th. So do we need September 8th or do we just want to skip that for today?
So the September 8th minutes were completed along with the 15th, but I have computers that day and I don't know where.
So we'll kick them next time. All right, so we'll scratch the September 8th minutes for today. Thank you, Roger. Anything else?
Yeah, so I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, motion to approve. Second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have an agenda. Legal update. Is Haley on?
She is.
Okay. Good afternoon, Haley. And they have you on here for a legal update, but I guess we just want to quick update on the different projects you have working for us, and if you have any questions for us, we can discuss them.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
1 second, please.
1 second, Haley, we're going to adjust the speaker setting here on this end.
Okay, try that. Sorry.
Hello?
Okay, we hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Bear with me. This is just a little bit of a list here, but wanting to give a complete review of what we've been working on and what we will be producing for the board in the near future. Last week, we delivered a memo to the board regarding open meeting laws and how that affects the board. We have 2 other memorandums in progress, one on board authority and jurisdiction, which will cover questions on indemnification, what is the board in general, and also for tax purposes, which we have had conversations with Christy Brooks on that issue. The other memorandum is on how funding and appropriations affect the board, and how the board can enter into contracts will also be discussed in that memorandum. We are in process of reviewing the HR policy, which we were just given last week. So we will probably need a few weeks, probably next week, to review that for the board. And then the longer term projects that we have are drafting and creating the bylaws for the board and the policies and procedures for the board as well.
Okay, are there any questions you have for the board at this time, Haley, or regarding any of those items you're working on?
I don't have any specific questions for the board at this moment on any of those tasks. The only thing I did forget to mention was that we also are in works to create or revise the artist release contract with regards to the logo contract with 6 Pony Hitch. I just asked the board to review the revision and suggestions that I sent earlier today, and just get back with us so that we can proceed.
Okay. Any questions by board members? The one memo, and I don't see it in the agenda, the one memo did get sent on the subject of open meeting laws. And I know everybody has that, so was that something we needed to try to address? Does anybody on the board have any questions on that at this time? Roger?
I didn't get a copy.
You didn't get a copy? Okay, let's make sure Roger gets a copy of that memo, and let's, I think, take a stab at discussing that, and if possible, approve that by the next agenda. So we have that. Yes, Roger, Ken.
I probably did get it, but it went to my official email site, which I only got half an hour ago. So I got it, but I haven't read it.
Let's make sure that the full board gets those again. So I appreciate that. So anything else from the board for the legal updates? So Haley is on, and anything else for us, Haley?
At this time, I do not believe so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your work. And we'll try to tackle that open meeting memo next time. And if there's anything else that they finish up before then that we can discuss at that time, we'll do that. All right. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Domestic allowance applications, item 3.3. So we have applications recommended for authorization by the board. As typical, we have been authorizing these under our interim process in groups. And we have this meeting's list. We have 11 items on there. So any comments from the staff at this time? Okay,
No, I don't really have any comments. If you wanted to read through the names of the applicants.
we can take care of that if we approve. So if we're, no comments from the staff, so board members, if you're ready to approve those, we need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, according to the agenda, excuse me, never mind. I have the wrong agenda. Never mind.
What did they do this week?
I missed public comment.
Oh, did they miss public? Yeah.
Okay, let's finish this and I'll go back to public comments. We're in the middle of this, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the following applications for Sloat, Jared, Purdy Revocable Trust, Country Creek Properties, Whitehair, Pew, Perez Tennis, Brownell, O'Neill Smith, Anderson, O'Connell, and Burkowski.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Roger, all in favor? Okay, those are approved and, we've had a nasty habit of skipping or missing my public comment period. So public comment for items not on the agenda, I think we can still take that. So if there's anybody in the audience, anybody online who has a public comment regarding, subjects that we don't have on the agenda yet at this time. So anybody in the audience today have a public comment?
If you're online and would like to make public comment, just raise your hand and make it possible for you to get up.
I'm just.
Thank you.
Just out of order.
That's all right.
Any comments, gentlemen? No? Anybody online?
I don't have anybody online. Again, if you'd like to make public comment, raise your hand. This is specific for items not on the agenda.
All right, we will have another public comment section later in the agenda, so thank you. And I am been moving right along here, so item 3.1 back to that. We need to approve minutes of September 15, 2020. So board members, any comments or discussion on those minutes? If not, we need to approve them, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 15, 2022 minutes as provided.
Motion by Roger to approve the September 15 minutes.
I'll second.
Second by Georgia. All in favor, say aye. All right. Now, thank you. It's great. Must be wrong. Communications have been done. Redundant wells. Item 3.4. Ethan. So when you talk about redundant wells,
Chairman, board members, it's a pleasure to rise before you as the engineer today.
and today is officially Ethan's first official hardworking day.
First official hardworking day. Yes, sir.
Full-time engineer for the board, so thank you and welcome, Ethan.
Thank you. Trying to hit the ground running here. One of the things that we'd like to get moving along on is the topic of these redundant well construction notices. We've had some folks reach out to us that are in need of drilling some redundant wells. Redundant well is allowed under the ordinance and is defined as a well that provides a backup source of water to a public water supply system. Okay, and so public water supply system, also defined in the ordinance, is a system for the provision of water for human consumption that has at least 15 service connections or that regularly serves at least 25 persons daily or any 60 or more days in a calendar year. And so the idea of a redundant well is to have something built in duplication so that if the water supply that serves a large number of people was to go down because the well failed, the pump failed, something significant happened to one of the wells, they would be able to easily switch over to an identical source of supply. They are notices of completion, and the terms are fairly straightforward and set out in the ordinance. We tried to replicate that in the form that you have in front of you today. There are, however, a couple of interesting things about this form that's unique, and I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. It's kind of a gateway form. We're looking at the ongoing work that this office will do in the transitionary fashion, moving away from interim function towards its more efficient capacity. So one of the things you'll notice right off is that at the top of the form, this is the applicants come in and apply to the office of the engineer. And so that is a unique difference as compared to the interim forms where people are really applying to you, the board. Additionally, what you'll find is that as these things move through, it will not be a board function to approve them. That will be something that happens out of the engineer's office, where the board would come into play as if the engineer made a decision that somebody did not like, then the board would hear an appeal of the decision of the office of the engineer. That said, we do ask for a couple of important pieces of information for a redundant well construction notice. We'd like to see the applicant's water rights that they're using this for. We'd like to see their well logged because this is a notice of completion. We'll have well logged for the well that they've drilled. We'd like to see documentation that they are in fact required to have redundant water supply, and that could be tribal, federal, or state authorization. Other than that, the eligibility verification and other aspects of the form are very straightforward. This is not a terribly complicated form, but we do have at least one topic that I'd like to have some discussion on and get the board's input about. We did talk a little bit about the name on the application. I guess it's two items I have here. Apologies. So one, we'd like to know how the board feels about the titling of this form going to the office of the engineer. And two, I am learning from people that it is very difficult to get a notary. And that notaries are having there's apparently a change in the way that the insurance and other types of responsibilities happen for notaries. They still are out and about, of course. This form currently mimics what DNRC does, which is require a notary. And we followed suit there. I did want to, because I had had three people bring it to my attention that sometimes it can be difficult to find a notary. So I promised that I would bring that item before the board. You know, where we sit with this particular form is we've got a good draft form for you. You know, the language on the office of the engineer and the titling is what we think probably works, but we're happy to take any redirection that the board might have. And I would like to get your approval to move forward with the notary requirement, or we'll happily remove that if that's the board's wishes. And kind of going forward with this notary issue, you know, absent any redirection from the board, I will simply just pursue mimicking what the state does on all of their application forms, similar to how we mimic the filing fees that the state does. But That said, I do believe that forms and application information is under the purview of the board. So if you want to see something a little different, please do let us know.
As we go through this, just maybe a couple quick comments. It's good to bring them to us and then get them approved regardless of whether we're mimicking what the state is doing. Once they're approved, then we can move on. So from the board members, any comments or questions? I know I've got a few, so I'll start with you.
Yes, Chairman, I do.
Kent?
Mr. Engineer, what was the impetus for this? Why has this come to us now, early in the process?
Certainly, we have had some folks who've got a need for redundant water supplies and are looking for a legal pathway forward on how to handle their requirements for redundant well supplies.
That was one of my questions. So who's asking right now?
It is somebody from the working with the Tribal Housing Authority.
Okay.
And this would be something that we would like to conjoin with their registration process. And we thought it'd be a good, it's not a super hot burning item, but thought it would be a good form to kind of cut our teeth on as.
Get in place. Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments, Roger?
Yeah, I think it's kind of low hanging fruit as far as forms go. So in that respect, it's, yeah, easy to move forward with. I guess I know before this process was established, there's a number of municipalities that have filed redundant well notices through this DNRC. So now that this is in place, can they demonstrate through that they could move ahead with a redundant well notice through the board?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I do believe that this would allow somebody, if they did not already have some type of authorization in place, to look at moving forward to get a redundant well.
So Roger, I guess your question to that point is if any of the reservation communities have applied to DNRC, this would supersede that, I think, and then if they had already been approved, that would end up being part of our database and our record, is that correct?
Well, I think I know of 3 of those that are probably just like the 602s that were filed over the years. They got their checks cashed and entered into the database, and that's as far as they got. So they were held just like all the 602s were held. So it's just another mechanism for that to come out of hibernation or whatever you want to call it. And
So with that, I don't know if they'll come forward, but somehow in the process during the review of 602s or as we get that database going, we'll see that. I'm not sure if we need to be proactive in that, but I think I get your point.
well, for instance, even Ronan's got one. So there's a one sitting in the drawer for the city of Ronan for redundant well completion. And so they could resurrect that out of there and bring it through to this and then get it processed. And this, like you said, then this would supersede that previous filing.
I think anticipate, I don't want to be too anticipatory, but if they've already paid one, are they going to want to pay another? And I assume that we'll be asking them to pay it. The filing fee.
Yeah, I guess that's their decision.
Chairman, board members, I'm not aware of any like suspended redundant well applications that are out there. I am aware of some water rights that are suspended that may wish to pursue a redundant well filing once their water right is brought forward either through previous registration process or some other method allowed by the board.
So I have another question.
Yes.
I guess, a couple of comments. This is a redundant well, so it's kind of a backup well. But in my understanding of a redundant well is that either, well, that they can use that, this well, but they still have the other well in place, but they can't use them concurrently.
That is correct. There is only an allowance to use one well at a time. And you cannot exceed your water right off of by combining the two of them. Or just in general exceeding your water right at all. This doesn't allow for an expansion of the underlying water right that is being used to have this redundant
Right.
duplicity. It's really just a mechanism of ensuring a large group of people relying on a water supply have an alternate source in the event of mishap on the primary source of supply.
So one other, two other items. One is, in addition to a redundant well, there's what's called a replacement well, but I don't see anywhere in our process or a definition for a replacement well.
Excellent thing to bring up. Now, we do have a form for a substitute well, which is in the same section of the ordinance. All of this falls under 22115, redundant and substitute wells. And the big difference between a redundant and a substitute well, and the board may remember they have approved an interim form for substitute wells, which would be utilized when an applicant has a well that has failed and they need to drill another well. They can, without pre-approval, drill another well that utilizes the same source, the same aquifer, okay? Provides the same service as the underlying water right. They are required to then abandon the failed well after the substitute well is in place. And then they file with the, well, and since that's an interim form with the, they file with you, the notice of completion. We'll probably look at transferring that over eventually as well.
Okay, I think that'd be a good idea. So,
Sorry if I would, just a redundant supply has to meet that criteria of serving more people. And usually, like the state's got some rules through DEQ about what constitutes a public water supply. I believe the tribes have some standards. I'm less familiar with the tribes' determinations on what is or isn't a public water supply. But anyway.
so one other, then, the notarization of the signature. I guess I would, maybe we could ask Haley what the rationale or the justification for having a notarized signature is. Or just get a legal opinion on that. I mean, to me, when somebody signs an application, they're verifying that the information on the application is factual. So
Mr. Chairman, jump in.
So Roger, yes, thank you, Ken.
Oh, I've never looked at notarization unless required by statutes necessary. I've always looked at that as signature insurance.
Well, I like the idea of just getting a legal opinion on that. So let's, Haley, I don't want to put you on the spot for an opinion on it right now, but I think what we'd like to do is have Ethan reach out to you and just get us your information on whether or not we need or should have a notary option on this form. And it certainly would be something we look at for future forms, but let's see what comes back on that. That was one of my questions. If we're going to do a notary, though, I think there's a number of options. Maybe they're short out there, but we could always try to have our own. The other is, our bank, I think, have one, and, there's always the local banks that have them. They're usually pretty handy, so people always have access to those, so there may be some options, but let's see what comes out of that, opinion. So Haley, unless you have an immediate opinion on that, I think that's what we'll do. Would that sound all right?
Yes, that sounds fine. We can take that under advisement and discuss it further with Ethan as well. It's definitely something that raised some questions when Ethan was presenting it. So no problem with discussing it further. And then the only other thing that I want to quickly mention is if we could get a copy of the form that's being discussed for redundant wells. We did not receive that before this meeting. So if that could just be sent, that would be great.
That would be helpful. Ethan, can we do that?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. So,
Mr. Chairman, I
any
have
other comments? Yes.
a question for you. Have state, tribal, and federal agencies, does Lake County, Missoula County require any public water systems?
I'm not sure about that, but if you'd like us to add the county or research it in advance and consider adding the county, I'm happy to do that.
Well, it's a follow-up question. The county is a subdivision of the state.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, does the language already include counties? I don't know.
I can answer that. DEQ is the agency that controls all public water systems under the Public Water Supply Bureau. So if there's a subdivision application that comes through the county, it has to be approved by DEQ. So it's tribal and state because the state has primacy for EPA, but I don't know how that
Except for,
works. I don't know.
except for
Yeah,
tribal water
that's what I
quality
was gonna
standards.
say,
So that's-
except for tribal.
So I think saying tribal and state is good, and I would tend to agree that counties are sort of
Yeah.
they are a creature of the state under law, but yeah, I would have no objection to adding a county, but that's.
I don't
They're
think
probably-
they don't have any jurisdiction is the point I'm making, so there's no need to put them on.
I don't know that I would agree they don't have jurisdiction. They
Well-
don't have jurisdiction to regulate it, but could require a public water system.
So the question is whether or not the language is broad enough to cover the county law. Let's just check that too. And if not, if we need to add county, we can do that, but I think it might be adequate, so. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Just have that review, okay. Anything else, Georgia?
I just want to make sure we answered all of your questions. You had also asked if we were okay with how this is worded at the title for this to be submitted to Office of the Engineer. Did we answer that? for you?
With your answer.
For a public water supply such as this, I do not have a problem with that.
Any other comments on that?
No, I'm good with that.
I think we're fair, and it can always be changed. It's our application. I think it's fair. I think you're trying to comply with what the ordinance requirements are, so I think we're good for now. On that regard. I wanted to go back on the question of implementation though. So I think Roger touched on it just a little bit. So when a redundant well has to be used, how is that actually implemented? Who monitors that? Is it self-monitoring? Do we monitor that? Is there some process they have to go through under the ordinance? Yeah, I haven't looked at that, so.
Yeah, that is self-monitoring is pretty much the standard, and as it is with most other types of appropriations. There are a very small handful of types of appropriations in the ordinance where there's a required measurement or something to that effect. And the vast majority of them, however, are self-regulated by either the appropriator themselves or adjacent appropriators that would maybe be affected by the misuse of another appropriator.
There wouldn't be many, but my monitoring question has to do with whether or not they're just using one well at a time.
Yes, we're taking their word for it, that when they go forward, the authorization will state that explicitly, that the redundant wells are really only for when one well is offline. They can move over to their redundant well, and that it cannot be used for an expansion of their maximum, flow rates and volume and volumes.
So we might be too early in the process, but if we're done, the well that might happen because maybe a pump goes in, so maybe they switch to a different well, so if they come back to using that first well, is a process built in for them to notify us and withdraw their, or change their notice?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I'm tracking you correctly, you've got a redundant well. We'll say something. Redundant well will be well number 2. And the primary well where the water right is the underlying water right be well number 1. Well, let's say circumstance occurs where the pump and well number 1 glitches out and fails, and they can no longer draw water out of well number 1. And they switch over to well number 2. And the idea of the redundant wells, they would operate on well number 2 as they repair well number 1. And then once well number 1 was repaired, they would go back to their primary.
Would they notify us?
There's no notification necessary for that.
We might want to think about that.
Okay.
Maybe when the time comes. I don't know if it is how formal it needs to be, but just a thought. So anyway, any other comments or questions from board members? Anything else you need on that, Ethan?
Board members, I think you've given me what I needed. I've got some things to address, and we'll bring this back to you after we talk about notaries. We'll consider some of the noticing if somebody has to use a redundant well, and we'll also do a little contemplation about the adequacy of the governments that are listed here to make sure that we don't leave anybody out that might need to either currently or in the future be able to require a redundant well, such as county.
And if we are not taking action on it today, are we holding anything up from any requests that have come in?
No, we're well ahead. Sorry for that pun. We are very far ahead of the mandatory need for this, and so this is a great opportunity for us to be instead of in the damage control, try to get support.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? No comments. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
So we're not taking action on the redundant well form and process today, but we do have public comment option here for the well form and process. So we'll take public comment on that discussion right now. Since I'm always missing that, we've been covered.
If you would like to leave public comments on the redundant well form and process, please raise your hand and I can make it possible for you to speak on Zoom.
Anybody in the audience? Any comments, guys? Comments or questions?
Can we go back? To domestic?
We'll have another open public comment section here and we'll come back if you have others. So on this topic, if you have a comment, to take it. Anybody online? Okay. So, Human Resource Committee, Water Conservation Specialist, Georgia.
Yes, Payla asked me to update the board on the status of where we are on the interview process for the water conservation specialist. So since it's been a few weeks since we met, just a little reminder. We had a total of 33 applicants apply. We selected 4 candidates to call for interview. Amy Saylor set up the interviews with the candidates we identified. And as part of the process of setting them up, she contacted each candidate and asked them the following questions. 1, are they still interested in the position since it's been a while since they applied? Two, she informed them that the position is located here in Ronan, and would they be able to conduct business in Ronan and work from this office? And lastly, following Ken's good suggestion, could they work in the United States, since we did have some international candidates? Following Amy Saylor's call, one candidate from another state is off the list because he didn't realize the position was based in Ronan and not available to work here. As of October 6th, Amy Saylor had not heard back from the other three candidates. So at this point, we're considering forwarding additional names that were on our list to replace any that needed to be removed from the list. So that's where we are as of today.
Okay. Any questions from the other board members? Okay, thank you. The personnel policy update. Ethan.
Chairman and board members, just a pretty brief update from me. I am actively working on personnel policy. I'm looking forward to having something for the board members to take a look at sometime next week. And then maybe we'll contemplate if we want to have some discussion about some items or share that with our legal counsel at that time. And I'll certainly hand you off my comments and thoughts before we have to make that decision.
No issues you want to bring up on that today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The status of the personnel policy. Continuing in process. Benefits update. Christie.
So on the benefits, I was working towards the health insurance. Having some issues with that and was waiting on the memo and the memorandum from the legal team stating that it's government instrumentality. That's something that a lot of places are asking for their records to be able to provide us with a cost. And so right now, we don't have anything going for the benefits. Waiting for the memo and then plan on meeting with, I've been talking with Del Martin from here. She's actually doing benefits now, and so I've been working with her, getting some ideas of what we could do for the amount of employees that I have, because it's a small number, or considered a small number.
Any questions from the board? Clear enough? Okay, thank you, Christie. Office of Engineer, Office Operations Update. Christie, it says.
So operation of the office, welcome Ethan. It's been kind of a hectic last few weeks. Being out the week with COVID, put me far behind. There still are a lot of walk-ins. A lot of people are calling and asking information. I think it'd be beneficial to even do like a public release of information, like just something that gives them some generalized information. There's a lot of things that are going out on the radio and in the news, for people that are wanting to, kind of the board. They're having meetings that aren't giving all the information, I should say. So it would be good or beneficial to others if we did give something out there. Otherwise, I mean, we're getting multiple calls on the same question they're getting.
Any comments, questions from the board? I think we're moving toward time. Maybe Christie, you and Ethan can talk a bit about that, and if there's some basic things we want to get out in it as PR, we could do that. But we certainly want to start getting ready to do that in a more formal way when when we're ready to transition from this interim process to a full open process, which would require a lot more PR in that case. So by next meeting, if you think there's some specific PR things you want to offer the board to look at or consider, we should do that. But those are my thoughts. Any other questions or comments or thoughts by the board? Okay, hearing none, water engineer 362, water engineer. It says here, spending authority, spending. Oh, man, you gotta have money to spend. What you got?
Well, I have a brief list of some office furnishings that include some items for myself and Christie and Anna. I'm hoping that the board would consider these not to exceed values as an expenditure that we could proceed with. Will be in addition to the standard monthly office operational amount of $500. I believe that you've already authorized. These are all generally one-time purchases, things that are not out of the normal, desks and office chairs, some rugs, and office supplies. One subscription to Adobe for myself. We are going to ensure that I can't piggyback on the one that we've already got, and I won't spend that until I'm absolutely positive that we can avoid spending it. But
Okay. Questions with the board?
What subscription? What is this subscription?
Adobe?
the Adobe
Okay, never mind.
subscription.
All right, okay.
The two of them. Any questions by the board? And so, I know we're gonna be trying to figure out the absolute budget here soon, but I'm assuming we're good with this. Board members, comments, questions? Do we need action? Do we want action on this or just consensus?
I'm satisfied in whatever way forward the board would like to go.
Motion to approve these as not to exceed.
I agree,
Roger?
Yes.
Motion by Roger,
sure.
second by Georgia. All in favor, say aye.
I,
All right, you got it.
Thank you. Not sure if the spending, I think you guys are good to designate me to spend money without public comment, but if you think we need to.
Excuse me.
Ken was just asking if we need to have public comment before. I think you guys have your budget, right, that you
Yeah.
can appropriate
I
without.
think we're good for now. We'll have a public comment here.
Okay. One additional item here is I do also just have this spending authority discussion. And the board doesn't have to give me an answer right now, but I do need to figure out how to spend the board's money. And so either, depending on your preferences, we can either work on a reimbursement arrangement, maybe especially here on the near term, or what we may be getting me added to some of the banking credentials. So I'm not sure what your preference is on how to handle that, but I'm all ears on your direction.
Thoughts or comments? I think what we want to do is ultimately establish some formal protocol for that. So probably good to get that in if we don't have, I'm thinking if it's not laid out in the board's operating policy, maybe we just put it in the operating policy, spell out how we do that. That'd be my suggestion. Any thoughts or questions on that?
no, do we have a credit card?
You have a debit card.
We have a debit card that is being from the bank. I think I signed for that initially to establish that. It's still in place, and I think Melissa at first, and then now I think it's actually in my possession here. So it's being used to actually take care of some of the minor expenses now.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had something. Maybe we should even consider a credit card so that if he needs to order stuff online or something, then you can just use the credit card. I don't know if the debit card always works or not.
Well, board members, my understanding is that the board currently does not have credit. They, so it is difficult. I'm learning about this. So
And
I do not believe I have the extent of all the information before you today, but I do understand that there have been some hiccups with trying to achieve a credit card.
well, the other is, some of the simple, or I'll call them simple purchases that the staff has made so far have been online and using the debit card. Is that correct?
Okay,
No,
good.
Okay,
I'm just making sure we have a mechanism.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I think that, so if in that regard, though, if something comes up, if we need some further approval of that, let's do that. But I'm thinking language in the operating policy would be the way to do that.
yeah,
If not in the operating policy, at least a written policy so that we can be clear about what that is. So one way or the other. It's worth, you know.
Excellent.
We're getting that in place. All right.
And I may offer board some offline questions to get me pointed in the right direction of what those policies might look like, so I could perhaps draft something that you'll appreciate.
The accounting firm might be able to help with some of that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Confirm date to start using Flathead Reservation Water Management Board.org email. All right, where are we? Guys, I've been seeing some busted emails coming through here, so we're getting close. So I think Roger and Ken, you guys okay or getting there, or how are we doing?
I got there an hour and a half ago.
I'm not there yet, so I
Okay.
don't know.
So I'm not sure who does email work for us. So go ahead, Ethan.
I did learn this, and it kind of blends into my Kelly Connect update, and a little bit also in the technical workshop that I have offered here if needed. So the CSKT IT folks were kind enough to set us up with the .org domain and initiated emails for all of you and myself. My FRWMB email is up and running. I have full access to it. That would be the way to contact me via email from here on forward. Those domains have the whole host of Outlook features, including calendars. And so I'm getting things established currently with the staff for us to all have the shared calendars. I will be extending those calendars to the board members so that should the board members like to know my whereabouts, you will be able to see that in online fashion by just adding my calendar to your calendar list, and you'd be able to do the same thing with the other staff members and get information about office operations and that type of thing. It would be, I believe, extremely useful to coordinate schedules and office hours and so forth. So we are on point with that. Currently, also, thank you to Christy. She has initiated a transition of our .org domain from CSKT IT to Kelly Connects. And so that is in the works. And once we make that trip, you'll see no difference other than eventually Kelly may check your password length and character complexity and perhaps try to impose a little higher level of stringency on security, which is prudent in today's day and age. And so we've got that going on. Furthermore, to help things along, I expect your laptops, the board's laptops, to show up either tomorrow or Monday. And I'm glad to let you know that the water engineer's laptop did show up today. I was able to get into the laptop with the temporary sign on and then make that transition to a regular login. I haven't done much beyond that so far. As you can imagine, sitting in a new computer takes a little work, but Kelly did install a lot of software in advance for that. And I'll be able to better report on that after I get some time to look at it. In other news, we are also I'm working with Kelly and a little bit also with our legal counsel to consider the idea of changing the domain from a .org designation to a .gov designation, making it government, which would change some things. That should be lockstep with information we're going to get from our legal counsel. And, it's we haven't ironed anything out in its entirety yet, and we'll keep you posted as to what those options are. But we are getting information from both our IT folks and our legal folks about that prospects of making that maneuver. Other than that, I do believe we had somebody from Kelly Works came here to the office this last Tuesday and assessed our internet and IT needs. I have not yet had a chance to reconnect with Kelly Connect on that topic, but Christy was here, and appreciate you helping that big coordinated, Christy. I do anticipate that they'll have some ideas for us to expand our Wi-Fi network, possibly put some Ethernet cables in strategic locations, that type of thing. So I'll keep the board posted or invite the board to the next meeting, whatever the board's preferences. That said, Roger, if you needed us to help you out after the meeting, to try to get into your email, we're happy to do that.
I'll stick around.
All right.
And I just had one technical question on the email, so mine's working, but there was one thing I wanted to. I don't know, maybe there's a switch on there or something I need to look at, but I'll run through with you.
Excellent. And that did sort of bleed into some of these other agenda items here.
Yeah, I see. So we have Kelly Connect. Anything else on Kelly Connect?
I did have a question.
Question, yes.
I did spend a good part of the morning working with IT, and they're very, very helpful. And I am up and running. But the first email I got from them this morning, it said the work order is scheduled because the MOU is expired. And I go, what the heck does that mean?
Oh, okay. Which IT folks did you? Okay, and they're probably letting us know that the MOU with them is expired. So that's timely because they are pushing us forward, and the next phone call you make will probably be to Kelly.
I mean, after that, they were very helpful. It was just kind of an odd email.
Right.
So to be clear, as we move forward with Kelly Connect, we'll each have access to Kelly Connect and we can talk to them. We talk to you through them.
Yeah, and then we'll set you up with the appropriate access depending on what your needs are.
Okay.
And that is some of the discovery information that Kelly Connects will be soliciting from the staff here.
Okay.
And I will be your conduit to help Kelly define what kind of services they need to provide for board members, staff, etc.
Any other comments or questions on those items? Other update, board members, so we have water law seminar, that's done. You got a chance to make it to that, so it's appreciated, so that came off, I think well, so. It says here, Pure West information presentation, so who has that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Tracy, what?
I am working with Marie Fong on how to invoice that water law conference. And the just so you know.
Okay,
I already did.
Huh?
I already did.
It will.
Submitted a expense voucher. So
All right,
I can work with you.
good enough. Pure West informational presentation, and who has what that is?
I can take that one. So Pure West reached out to our contact email to see if we would have capacity to essentially come and chat with them about what their clients would need to do moving forward to address some of their water use needs, specifically as far as like developing new wells. Since they are a real estate business, we thought maybe it would be beneficial to get some of the realtors in the area informed about what our process is moving forward. I have had a lot of realtors reach out personally to ask questions. So we just wanted to see if there was any interest in doing a potential informational presentation with them. And their meeting is on October 20th, so it is an off week for the tour.
Ken and or Roger have done realtor presentations already. We can have a good,
Well, I was gonna say, I made that initial presentation to the Northwest Montana Realtors Association, and Pure West is a member of that, so I guess it seems that if we're gonna do something like that again, it should be more. Pure West is just one real estate company, and so we're gonna.
Roger, if it's helpful, I'm happy to respond back and just ask for specific questions they want to address, if that's helpful, and then we can maybe come back and discuss, or I can forward them to you when you.
Well, I just think we should do it as a organizational thing, not as a specific company thing.
so here's a couple thoughts. One is, maybe ask them, let's see what their questions are, because then remind them that we did a presentation to the Northwest Realtors Association. And it would be the same presentation unless they have specific questions. And then if they have additional questions, if we can answer them, fine. If not, if they need a presentation, maybe Roger is suggesting that we do a general one, then is open it up for other realtors, just maybe the Northwest Realtor Association
Okay.
or something.
Yeah,
So it's kind of taking a step at a time and see what they need, and then go from there. Will that work? Roger,
yeah, I think that's a good approach.
okay. Georgia,
Yeah, I guess my thought on this is a little bit different, although I hear your good point there, Roger. I just think there's so much misinformation out in the community right now, and it's getting amplified. The longer it takes for us to get a website up with frequently asked questions and actual facts, a lot of what is factual is getting replaced with, I'll just call it what it is, conspiracy theory. So I think we need more information sooner, not less later, and we all have a lot of demands on our time. So I'm wondering what the board's thought would be. You guys have put together a wonderful presentation. Is it possible to get that recorded and even get it up on YouTube so these guys could download it at their convenience? And that way we have control of this message and we can get the facts out without having to make repeated visits. Because that's a lot of time.
Okay.
Point taken. So how do we feel about using media to get the facts out there?
Well, that was my next suggestion, is maybe record something that's not generic, but that does address some of the more straightforward questions that we do.
well, the idea of doing something more general and doing more public education, I think is going to be critical. I think, like I suggested earlier, I think we need to think about whether or not we need something soon to cover some of the basic questions, but I think we need to be working towards some good PR to cover all of the questions and exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why. Yeah, Roger.
Yeah, I like George's idea. I guess I think we could maybe take that presentation we had, and there's verbiage that goes with it. Somebody could review that and edit it and put it on the website, you know.
So,
Just as a point of interest, I do believe that your presentation was reported and is posted somewhere.
Oh.
So, we, I think Rob McDonald knows where that is located, so we can.
Rob is on, let's ask him.
Okay.
This is Rob McDonald. I did reach out to the Northwest Realtor Association through email, asking if that video is posted, because I could not find it on their website. I looked a few months ago and it was there, and asked if I could access it, but they've not gotten back to me, but I can follow up and give an update to the board. I was hoping to get the ability to link to it and share it, because I think that was a quality video presentation.
So with consensus, let's move toward that, but let's go ahead and ask Pure West what their questions are right now at this time anyway. Move toward getting that presentation found and posted. And then Rob and Ethan, if you know, I think it's not too soon to start really working towards some larger PR stuff we can put out here soon, especially when we're ready to transition into the full open operation. So I think maybe start putting things together for that a good PR campaign.
Certainly, and I have two items you might consider as options. I can tell you how DNRC handles realtor outreach, and they typically have a routinely held monthly or every other monthly, depending on what the need is, meeting at their regional offices where realtors are invited to come and get a presentation on how things are operating at that time. That may help to address having multiple realty companies having access to information. Also allow us to record the presentations and post that, at least for the meantime. I'm sure DNRC will be happy to host that on the website that they've got up and running for the board. And so that might be an option for the board to consider.
Are you suggesting that on an off week, you'd be willing to host realtors come in here and you can give them a presentation? Or
Well, I thought about trying to volunteer the chairman, but I assumed that I would probably be the person that would need to host that presentation.
well, toy with that idea, see what you can work out, and we'll see if we can do something. Yeah, sure.
I was just curious, alternatively, is it possible for you or the chairman, I don't want to volunteer anyone here, but to just start getting into the community, like showing up at monthly Rotary meetings or Chamber of Commerce meetings in the community, meeting them where they are, just updates. There's some folks I'm sure would not ever come down here for a meeting, and they might be the same ones who have been misinformed. So do we need to consider how we move out into the community?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I can tell you I did start an FAQ document that will be for you to review. We'll definitely need your approval and attention, and that is something that is probably going to be useful. Additionally, you have the option to send your water engineer wherever you want to for public outreach.
Robert.
Rob, your hands up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, in my role with the tribes in the Division of Engineering and Water Resources, I was asked several months ago to talk to the Polson Chamber about the water compact, which I did on October 5th. And it was advertised through their channels for roughly 2.5 weeks, mentioned in newsletters. It was put in the Valley Journal, a talk on the water compact, Robert McDonald, and 14 people showed. And I was told it was larger than usual. Former Judge Wall made a point to show up, and Pure West had 2 members of their company there, and some folks had called from Whitefish to say they were to attend. But my point is that in years past, when I gave talks on the water compact, the room had 60 to 90 people. And I think it was properly advertised. October's tends to be more busy than say August or July. And they only drew what, 14, 15 people. So the topic is getting out there. I do think part of what we're all hearing is the 3 organized meetings by the anti-water compact crowd. I went to their first meeting and they had about 80 people, and they're organizing to file, they're encouraging people to file the complaints in the water court process and trying to coach them in that arena. It started with very inaccurate and critical descriptions of the water compact and what they think it does of what it actually does not does. So I think that has churned up some local interest and discussion, which I think we're all seeing the echoes from. But I felt important to highlight the fact that in one of those regular information communications in the chamber, the topic is kind of on the circuit, and it's what I would call the mainstream, more factual channels of information aren't drawing the interest or the crowds. It's the scintillating gossip that's still drawing the bigger crowd in the question. I guess my point ultimately is there is ongoing effort outside the board to keep the conversation current and topical and factual. Hope that helps.
It does. So let me reiterate what I heard, and maybe I think we can suggest a path here. So one, let's get questions from Pure West. Let's see what they have. Ethan, if you would think about your periodic meetings that you suggested, like the NRC has, if you want to begin to host those, I think we could, we could do that. Continue work on a PR, some PR as we begin to get ready to transition, and then work on posting the presentation for the realtors that Roger did. So, did I miss anything? And if we do those things and keep it simple, I think we'll get us going down the right path. Anything else? Ken, Roger, Roger? Okay, Ethan, we good? Okay, yeah, Roger.
On other updates, I was just wondering if we could get a couple updates. One is, I think Haley had mentioned, or we were talking about what kind of legal entity this organization was going to be, and there's been some decision on that. So I know that Georgia and Teresa weren't at the water conference, but I was wondering if Haley could give us an update on that, and then also if Rob could give us an update on the status of the artist release for the logo.
Okay, let's go to Haley. Haley, did you hear that question?
I did, yes. So the term I believe you're referring to is the government instrumentality term. That came up in a tax context. We are still fleshing out whether that can be applied in general to how the board operates and its jurisdiction. So that is still being fleshed out, but that is the term that was used to describe the board in a tax purpose.
And that was government instrumentality?
Correct.
Oh, that's enough. Okay. Thank you.
And I guess Roger's question was for Rob, but I think Haley also submitted a recommendation today that the board has not had a chance to discuss on the logo, but so Rob, Haley.
I'll defer to Haley. I think she is a couple laps ahead of me.
Sure. So yeah, Rob did send me over some more recent updates with regard to Six Pony Hitch and what they thought about the artist release that we had provided to the board between Six Pony Hitch and the artist. There was some disagreement with how it was to be handled, and so our recommendation to the board was to revise that artist release to be between the board and the artist, so that the board could still contract with Six Pony Hitch to distribute a logo, and that also the board can have the rights to the logo from the artist. So that still needs to be discussed amongst the board members and advised to us so that we can then revise the document.
So you gave us that in an email. So I'm assuming we're not going to take any action on that today, but maybe by the time we meet next time, the board members would take a look at that. So what specifically would you need from the board, Haley, by the time we meet next time?
Just a decision on whether what we have suggested would be appropriate for what the board would like out of this contract with Six Pony Hitch.
Your email spelled that all out.
It did. And if there are any further questions, we're happy to discuss that with any board member.
So board members, I would suggest take a look at that. If you have questions, I'll make sure we can get them to Haley. Let's make sure the full board is aware of your questions as we send them. Okay, anything else from the board on that? Okay. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Rob. Any other updates? I think I made contact with 3 heating and cooling places to come in and give us bids for updating the heating and cooling in this building. The landlord, I spoke with her a month ago and she agreed that we could do that. She didn't agree to go any further than bids at this time, but I don't have those bids yet, but I think 3 different companies have taken a look and they're going to get us some bids. And then just more of a heads up, I think as we again prepare to transition, we've got Ethan on now full time. I'm thinking soon, I hope we get some of the water conservation specialists hired, but sooner than later, I'd like to schedule some time on the tribal council agenda and go meet with them, introduce ourselves, staff and board, and give them an update. That doesn't have to happen right away, but I think in the near future, we want to probably schedule that. So just a heads up. Any other updates by board members? Ken?
Question, I think it was the last board meeting, we were gonna do a press release for Ethan. Has anything occurred on that?
Not on my end. I don't know if Ethan or Rob have had a chance to do anything.
I can tell you that the charter Kusta did a piece on the hire, and I don't know if you've seen it, it was fairly thorough, but Rob and I think have been just trying to get other things under wraps so far, but we'll thanks for getting us a little refocus on that.
Yeah. Good. Anything else from anyone on the board? All right, public comments. So now we do have opportunity for final public comments. So members of the public can please comment. So anybody in the audience here, so I know you said you had comments, please step up, give us your name and your comment, please.
Yeah, my name's Jack.
Come on up.
My name's Jack River. Appreciate the time. Doing a commercial project on the road. We have sanitary restrictions through DEQ. We're waiting for approval from the board for shared water system down there. I was down on the 25th to do an application. Of course, the office was closed. In on the 29th. Met with Ethan. Of course, we went through the application. Didn't have enough time to get in the meeting 29th. You guys were gone last week. I just assumed I was on the meeting this week. I don't know what happened, but if there was some issues with application or something, it would have been really professional to get a hold of me and let me know we have an issue. Right now, I have a big commercial building waiting for a letter of approval for you guys so I can do the sanitation, and we're going on 3 weeks now.
Excuse me, you do have 30 days to process and review the application, just as the startup and like just looking at the application in general. So, and, on my part, I was out of office sick, and so that has put us behind. We didn't have anyone else that's been working full time, and so I'm really sorry for that. As of right now, the applications that were approved, a lot of them were in your prior before yours. And so yours is on my desk. I haven't been able to review it yet. But I can, while you're here, if you wanted to wait, and then I can let you know if I didn't need anything.
But I still have to wait another week, I guess, before I get it approved. Yeah, when Ethan and I went through everything, the application was good, we're missing the signature, I get the signature. I guess he said, yeah, you're on this meeting. It was a verbal, he says, yeah, you're not last week, because they were out of town. You're on this week.
All right, let me,
I guess when I was told I was on this week, I just assumed I was on this week.
all right, I appreciate your comment. Give us an opportunity to chat with Ethan, so appreciate it. Thank you. So Ethan, do you can you update us on this at this point? Or
Mr. Chairman, board members, I do need to refresh myself on the application. I do know we got behind because of known circumstances.
okay, so
Yep.
as I recall, and somebody can correct me here, is so for the question, especially for DEQ, is that we now have a process in place where DNRC is going to review their records to determine if there's an existing water right that will satisfy what DEQ needs. If not, then they will apply here. Once they apply here, we will notify DEQ, and DEQ will, that will satisfy DEQ's requirement. So is that correct? I mean, that's the general process. Is that correct? And did I miss anything, Roger?
I can give you a little update on that. So
Yeah.
I had an inquiry from a party and I told them to do that. I told them to use the DNRC predetermination request because it's basically just a request to check on a water right. And they did, they submitted all that to the DNRC. And then the DNRC, I don't have it with me, wrote back and said, we're not responding to these requests anymore because of the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board now has authority. So then I went around back with Kathy Olson on this. And was advised that this form is not the form to use. They just need to make a simple request to DNRC with the location, town legal location. And that's it. And then DNRC will review their status. So it's never simple.
Well, I know Pela
But
had presented to the board at our last meeting that this process had been established and now in place.
yeah,
That we would have DNRC look at existing water rights. If there's no existing water right, they would apply here. Once they apply, that would, we'd notify DEQ and that would satisfy DEQ's needs. So Ethan, if you would jump on that and see where we're at with that process. Certainly we have individuals with applications that need to get completed, but then we need to notify. If it's something where we need to notify DEQ for that DEQ release, let's figure out what we do to get that done.
I will forward you the email I got.
So, we don't normally get into extensive discussion on our comments, but sir, just, I've continued to work with Ethan. We have for actually months now been trying to resolve this issue between this board and DNRC and DEQ. And it has been a little bit of a complicated process, but we believe we are getting it worked out. And this board's role will not, as I understand it, address those existing water rights that was still and continue to be the Montana DNRC question to answer for DEQ. If there isn't one, then we will take application, notify DEQ, and that will satisfy their requirements. So we will do our part, but to the extent that DNRC needs to continue to do their part, we will pursue that as well. And it was my understanding that we had that set up as of our last meeting. So let us get on this and see if we can get this resolved.
So when I talk to DEQ, all they're waiting for is the approval letter on the well.
Understood,
That's all they, and
understood,
then they have all their engineering, or my engineering is done too, so.
understood. Let's get on it. So thank you, Ethan. Okay, any other public comments? So here or online? Anybody online have a public comment? We're just trying to wrap up our public comments. Anybody online have public comment?
Do not see anybody online.
Okay, I think we're probably good there, so. We'll close the public comment section. Next steps, next meeting, so we're now going to continue, as I understand, try to meet every 2 weeks. Is that still going to be adequate, Ethan?
Yep.
Okay, so for now, instead every week, we'll go every 2 weeks, so it'll be 2 weeks out. The next meeting will be October 27th.
So I have to wait 2 more weeks now? Is that correct? For approval letter on a well, we haven't even drilled yet, that we're going to drill? Just so I can get a sanitary restriction? So I can finish the commercial building? Is that what I'm hearing here?
Our next scheduled meeting
I
is,
don't need the water, I just need an approval letter that says, yes, I can have water, that's all I need.
understood. For the board, would you like to entertain an interim approval of that if Ethan can get that to us before we meet?
I would.
Absolutely.
All right, even if you can get something to us interim before then, we'll get something approved by the board. The tricky part of that is that we have to have a notification of any public meetings we have. But I think if the board authorizes that we do that in advance, then let's try that. I think we want to try to be helpful, but short of that, if we can get that done, we will. Short of that, then our next meeting, this is in 2 weeks. We will see what we can do.
Mr. Chairman, would that
Yes.
meeting be live or Zoom?
Excuse me?
Would the meeting be live or Zoom on the 27th?
I would like us to have live, unless the board members think otherwise. We'll meet live in 2 weeks, and in the meantime, try to get your letter. So you can let us know as quick as you can on that particular application, so we can try to get it.
Certainly.
The letter that would go to DEQ, have we done one of those yet?
Mr. Chairman, board members, we have done, I believe, 2 of them so far, but the tracking of it's a little difficult because we have 2 state agencies that really just take the information from this office and proceed. There's not any feedback from the other end of the cycle, unless in certain circumstances, we just happen to know the applicant and want to do them again. To find out that way. And
Well, I'm gonna ask, so we've got Ethan here, Haley here, we got the board. I'm gonna just make a suggestion on this particular one. I don't want to get too far afield of this, but if this is, I think the kind of application we're talking would be a domestic allowance that we have normally been approving. Is this something other than a business allowance? What is this?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I really do need to, you gotta understand, I've touched a lot of applications.
Okay.
today. And forgive me for not remembering all of the specifics, but, you know, I sense that the board is wanting to address it, but I also do need to just refresh myself. And I, did not know about it until just now at the start of the meeting, that I didn't know we were gonna be here or that one hadn't made it into the list. So there was no chance for me to even catch a breath on that particular application. I do know it's in the other,
My comment, though, is that if it is a domestic allowance that we would approve normally, is there any reason why we can't authorize the engineer to send a letter ahead of our approval? In this one case,
No, I'm good with that.
That's fine.
Ken,
I don't think so.
you don't think they want to, or you?
I think we did, so.
Okay. So consensus is that if it qualifies as the domestic allowance as we have been approving, then I would suggest that we're in agreement that we just pen that letter and get it out to the DEQ. And then we will do formal approval of that at our next meeting. If it is not, does not fit in the category of domestic allowance that we have been approving, then that means it's a different kind of well, and we can't do that until our next meeting. If it does, we will. All right,
board members, thank you. Your
that's
direction
about
is
as
clear.
yeah, that's about as good as we can do today. All right. So, no other public comments. Next steps, October 27 in person. We will have meeting topics prepared for our agenda, and as always, if we can see that agenda ahead of time, draft agenda ahead of time, that would be appreciated. So, board members, any other final comments?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, we will end this meeting. Thank you all very much for attending.